Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first video in the Japan trip planning series. Every week in December I'm going to be uploading a video to help you plan a trip in Japan. I was gonna say the best trip in Japan of your life, but like I can't guarantee that. I'm gonna release videos which help you plan your trip to Japan. If you're making any plans to go to Japan in the next couple of years, hopefully these videos are gonna be super helpful for you. Today we are going to be talking about sort of the start in planning your trip, times of the year to go, flights, budgeting, who to travel with, this kind of thing. And later on in December we're going to be talking about JR passes, where to stay, how to plan your route, how I find hotels, and a few other bits and pieces as well. So today let's get started with the sort of first steps in planning your Japan vacation. Let's go. So let's talk about time to go. My favorite time to travel in Japan, oddly, is winter. The temperatures aren't too crazy low. They're somewhere usually between 5 to 15 degrees in Tokyo. But the reason why I really like it is because it's super bright and super dry. It hardly ever rains and you're able to see Fuji from Tokyo, which is very, very rare to be able to do for the rest of the year. They also have skiing in Japan as well. So if you like skiing, obviously winter is your choice, right? The most popular month, however, is probably spring, and the reason why spring is so popular is because that's when the cherry blossoms bloom, and seeing cherry blossoms bloom in Japan is amazing. Be a little bit wary though. In spring it can rain a little bit. It's usually it's usually pretty decent, but it can rain a little bit, so just make sure that you bring your rain jacket. And usually the schools, I believe, do their year changeover in late March, so the kids will be leaving their previous year of school and going up to their next grade or up to their next year. And that happens sometime in late March to early April. So I usually recommend sort of, you know, like early April to start your trip. Tends to be a good thing to make sure you hit up the cherry blossoms, but there's not loads and loads of people around. Summer is not usually a month that I recommend, and the reason why is it is either very rainy or very hot and sticky. Rainy season in Japan is from June to July. In the sort of main areas that you'll go, it will differ from the country obviously, but sort of Tokyo, Kyoto way will be June and July, and it will be very, very wet for the majority of those months. August and September can be quite hot and sticky. If you've been to Florida and you've been to Walt Disney World during the summer months, it's very similar temperature to that. But if you are fine with those temperatures in Florida, you'll be fine with the temperatures in Japan as well. And if you live in a country which is hot, I assure that you're okay as well. I don't live in a country that's hot. So I've suffered in the Japanese summer before. And finally, autumn. Autumn, I think, is a season which gets overlooked massively, and I think that's because anybody who wants to go see beautiful scenery tends to go for cherry blossom season. But there's an amazing thing which happens in autumn in Japan. The weather changes from being hot to cooler in a very, very short space of time, which causes a lot of the foliage, a lot of the sort of trees and leaves around to change color very quickly. So it creates this beautiful canvas of reds and yellows and burnt colors, which looks absolutely amazing. Another thing which is really amazing about autumn is the light ups. Christmas light ups or light ups within parks at night or temple light ups tend to be really popular over autumn, and they're really cool to see as well. Finally, there's a few times of the year that I would not recommend that you go, and the reason is because Japan has a number of back-to-back holidays and a few times which feature throughout the year. And that means that a lot of people in Japan will be traveling around, so everything will be really, really busy, especially places like Tokyo Disneyland. You'll see in this list as well that I have actually listed New Year's there, which I know is a bit of a controversial one, but the reason why it's in there is because there are 3 holidays in New Year's. The 1st, the 2nd and the 3rd of January are all a national holiday, and it tends to be that most restaurants and stores are closed on those days. If you want recommendations of places which are open because you are going during that time, I have a video that I'll put whichever corner the video goes in, and you can see there's a few places that we went to on New Year's Day actually in Tokyo, so that would be my best recommendation if you are going at that time. For the amount of time that I recommend people go, it really does obviously depend on your budget and your allocation, your work days allocation from work and this kind of thing. This trip that Liam and I are going on soon is actually going to be a month long, which is way over the top. We're doing that because we want to see some friends and visit a few places and kind of chill out and not be rushing around too much. to see loads and loads of stuff and cover a decent amount of the country, I recommend that you have a good couple of weeks, especially if you're one of the people who is planning a Tokyo Disney trip and you are going to be spending 4 days at Disney. If though you want to go to Tokyo, Kyoto and Osaka and back, you probably could get that done in a little over a week. So it depends on you guys. I recommend the 2 weeks. I think you do need it, but you know, budgets and everything coming in, you know, make sure you plan the trip which is right for you. I get a few questions related to flights, and it's actually quite funny because I've only experienced flights from from London to Japan, and actually when I was living in Japan I did experience flights from Japan out to the US and out to Canada, but not much aside from that. So I'm going to give some recommendations of how to at least get from the UK to Japan, and I'm sorry if you live somewhere else in the world. I think there's some amazing airlines there, and maybe I'll leave some links below where you could check out reviews on airlines to find the best airlines for you. From the UK, my favourite carrier to go to Japan, which is actually quite cost effective, is Finnair. I absolutely love Finnair. They have a set of really amazing new planes, and the flight time is incredibly small for the fact that you have to make a stop in Helsinki. 3 hours to Helsinki and then another 9 hours to Tokyo is absolutely perfect, and Helsinki is a beautiful airport. If I was going to fly direct to Japan and I was going to chuck some money at it, I would fly either JAL or ANA, because Japanese airlines are amazing. They are so good. We're going to talk a bit about traveling around the country. I'm not going to mention much about the Japan Rail Pass, which is here. I got mine in the post the other day, because we're going to do a whole video on this, but this is probably going to give you a hint of my biggest recommendation on your route to travel around the country. Japanese train systems are amazing, absolutely fantastic. They run on time, they're incredibly fast. The bullet train, true to its name, is incredibly fast, and they go almost everywhere. In all of the trips I've taken to Japan, I've only driven a car twice. I actually am going to be driving a car on the next trip, but I've only had to drive a car twice, and picking up a Japanese rail pass and getting around the country on train is my favorite method. If you are going from the top of the country to the bottom of the country, or top of the country to the bottom of the country, and then you may want to go and get a plane. Domestic flights in Japan are actually quite reasonably priced, and they go from loads of different airports, so that would be very recommended. Inner cities, there's usually metro in every single inner city, and one of these cards, which is a Suica, is your ticket to ride in all of the inner city sort of metro-y trains. What's amazing about Japan is, despite the fact that so many cities have their own metro system, most of the metro cards from any other city will work in that city that you're in. So this is a Suica card. This is the one that I pick up from Tokyo, and it's the one that they use in Tokyo. When I go to Nagoya, I can use it there, even though their card is different. I can also use it in Sapporo, I can use it in Osaka, and each one of these cities has their own card, but I always just use my Suica card, which is actually really cool. This is actually my old one. My new one is on my phone. Some people have asked me about renting cars. You can rent cars through big websites like rentalcars.com, and I think Expedia has a few places that you can pick up cars as well. If you're going to Japan and renting a car, you're going to need an international driver's permit. I believe it's the permit. If I'm wrong, I'll put it below here, because there's two types. There's a permit and a license, and I think the permit is the one that you need, and it's basically a translated copy of your driver's license, so the Japanese rental company will happily rent you a vehicle because they can then read your license. But a lot of the roads tend to be toll roads. If you're going between two cities, there tends to be a lot of toll roads. The other thing is, the train whoops the road's ass. Like, the train is so much faster than driving. Do the calculations yourself. Go to Google Maps and see Tokyo to Osaka on a train and Tokyo to Osaka in a car, and you'll know what I mean. So if you can take the train, I still think you should do that. If you need to take a car, get the permit, and then you'll be good to go. There are some places in Japan where you also might need to take a ship. The ships are sometimes covered by the Japanese rail pass, like the one that goes to Miyajima Island in Hiroshima, but often they are not. You'll have to pay some extra for that. You should be able to find some details about those online if you're going to take a particular route. One of the things I like to do is, on Google Maps, I like to see if there's a dotted line between two cities over a piece of water. And if I see that, then I know that there is a boat route, and then I can look it up. So for our upcoming trip, we're going to be taking a boat from Hiroshima over to Matsuyama, which is in Shikoku, a completely separate island, and I can see from Google Maps that there's a dotted line there, and so that's how I did my research. I then plugged that into Google, Hiroshima to Matsuyama by boat, and got the information on that so I am ready to go. I'm super looking forward to that. It's going to be amazing, but I am going to have to pay for that extra because it's not going to be covered by my Japan Rail Pass. Now, I'm afraid there's one other form of transport which I can't give much input in, but that is buses. There are a number of buses which connect cities and tourist destinations around Japan. Apparently they are fantastic, but I have not experienced them myself to know for definite, as I've always opted to go for a train. It's one of the cost-effective ways to do it, so if you are not getting a Japan Rail Pass for any reason and you want to be a bit thrifty, then getting the buses might be the right route for you. And I believe they have a number of overnight buses too, which is pretty cool. I've been to Japan in a bunch of different sort of group makeups. I've done a family trip, I've done a friend trip, I've gone by myself a number of times, and I've gone with my partner as a couple as well. Every single one of these has been fantastic. The one I haven't done is with children, so I did a little bit of research into this for those of you who might be traveling with kids, and it seems like lots of people do recommend traveling to Japan with children. First of all, there's loads of theme parks there, including the best theme park resort in the world, which is Tokyo Disney Resort. I will not be swayed. It's the best. There's also Universal and some more Japanese theme parks like Sanrio Puroland, which is where Hello Kitty is. There's some amazing museums. The Ghibli Museum is phenomenal and kids absolutely love it. And one of the other big recommendations for kids is the Edo Tokyo Architectural Museum, Edo Tokyo Open Air Architectural Museum. I might try and go there this time on our trip, because it's such a fantastic place to see sort of architecture through the ages, and they do a bunch of things for kids, so sort of games and small things that they do outside, so kids love going there. Also, the things that parents always rave about, I mean, in all fairness, I rave about it as well. Finding a toilet, a clean public toilet in Japan is so easy. It's so easy. So especially if you have younger kids and they need diapers changing or anything like that, it's so easy in Japan to find those things. Restaurants are also incredibly accepting of kids, and so anyway, I recommend it. I recommend it very much. If you're traveling alone, which is another question that I get, I also recommend going to Japan. And the reason I love doing Japan alone, apart from the benefits of traveling alone and setting your own schedule and not having to worry about anyone else, but is also because it is so safe. Japan is one of the safest places in the world. I used to sit in a Starbucks and do some work when I lived there, and I would leave my laptop, my purse and my phone at the table when I went to go and use the toilet. Just leave it there because I knew nobody was ever going to steal it. Bikes don't get locked up. People are just so kind. If you drop your wallet on the floor, people will chase you to give it back to you. It's a wonderful culture. So I definitely recommend traveling alone. Still be vigilant, because you know, things sometimes happen, so it's always good to be vigilant, but I do recommend it as a place that you can easily travel alone. One of the big things which people are a little bit scared about when going to Japan, and I get it because I feel scared about this thing as well when I visit other countries, is language. Japan has been doing lots of amazing work on trying to make itself easier to travel around for the number of tourists which are going to be visiting it for the Tokyo Olympics and the Rugby World Cup, which has just gone. So throughout the last few years, they've been doing loads of stuff. Even when I lived there, every single sign that I saw for a train station was all multilingual, so it would display the name in English and display the name in phonetic Japanese, and then the name in sort of Japanese and kanji characters, so that everybody was able to read the signs. And I actually found that was the same in most places. Sushi bars I went into had menus, either like sort of paper menus or digital menus, in English and in Japanese, and generally I found that things have been getting so fantastically better every single time that I've been going. Two top tips for if you have any issues with language whilst you're in Japan. Number one is to use apps to your advantage. So things like Google Translate or a Japanese dictionary on your phone are absolutely amazing. So get to grips with them, find out how they work. Translate has this amazing feature where you can take pictures of things or even hold it up at things now, and it will show you the translation of the Japanese characters. It's so well done. My second tip is in Japanese schools, they actually teach a sizable amount of English. So you tend to find that most younger people will have some grasp of the English language. So if you have a problem, maybe find somebody who's, don't go around like, you know, just hey kid, help me out. Like, you probably will find somebody around you will be able to help you out, because their grasp of English is getting better with every single school year. So so yeah, they're my 2 top tips. But really, the apps are fantastic. I get a few questions asking about how much money people need per day whilst they're in Japan, and obviously it depends on your budget and how much you want to do and spend, and the types of hotels that you want to stay at, and these kind of things. Japan has an odd reputation for being really, really expensive, and I think it is quite an expensive place to go. But what's odd about it is food tends to be quite cheap, and accommodation is sort of moderate. So visiting there doesn't feel quite as expensive as people have made out. But again, depending on your budget and your situation, you may find that to be less or more so. When we go to Japan, we like to budget on average £100 per night for a hotel room. And again, this is going to depend on you guys and what you like to do. Liam and I like quite a simple hotel that has that's very, very clean. So as long as it's a simple hotel but it's clean, I do quite like a bathhouse, so if it's got a bathhouse, but otherwise we tend not to want much from our hotels, and in fact we don't even care that much for space. So for us, £100 a night on average is fine. For a very small hotel, I would like to pay a lot less, £50–60 a night, but then I put that extra money towards staying somewhere nice, like a fancy Japanese inn, a fancy ryokan on another night. The rest of it then depends on what kind of food you like to eat and what you're going to be doing during the day. Ramen is super, super cheap. So a bowl of ramen, which is basically a whole meal, can be somewhere between 700 to 1,000 yen. And if you're eating ramen for 2 weeks, you're probably going to save a lot of money. But Japan does have some fantastic restaurants, so maybe you want to be spending more like 5,000 to 6,000 yen per person for a fancy meal, for instance. And if you're going to go for real fancy, you could even part with 10,000 yen for a meal. That's quite rare, but it could happen. So you need to budget accordingly for that. The other thing is things that you want to do during the day. Visiting temples is actually super, super cheap. Temples usually take somewhere between 100 yen to 1,000 yen as an entrance fee, and you know, some of them are just free for you to just walk around. So that's a really cheap way to spend some time in Japan, in any of the cities. But if you go to places like Tokyo Disney or Universal, you're going to be parting with something like 7,000 yen per person for the day. And then of course comes all the merchandise, food, treats, snacks that goes on top of that. That was a lot, you know. It was quite a lot of stuff. I wanted to get everything into this video that I wasn't going to be talking about in the subsequent video. So I hope you found it useful. I hope so. In the next video, we're going to be talking about working out your route around Japan. Obviously with the Japan Rail Pass and with other ways to visit and go around this amazing country, there's loads of places that you can stay and loads of things that you can do. And we're going to be talking about finding the route around the country which works for you. So think about, before you see the next video, have a think about whether you like history, whether you like samurai feudal stuff, or whether you like Tokyo Disney or more modern things, or food, or maybe a mixture of all of those. I'm the mixture. I like a mixture of everything. But for now, I want to say thank you so much for sticking with us. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you've watched this video quite early on, you'll be in time to see the Instagram live, which I'm going to be doing on Sunday the 15th of December at 8 PM GMT. So that's the 15th of December 2019, this year that this video is going up. So at 8 PM GMT, we're going to be doing an Instagram live. My Instagram account name is down here. It's just thisNatasha, same as this channel. So please come along and ask me questions about Japan, Disney, or anything else. It's completely fine. Not limited to just Japan, but yes, we will be talking a lot about Japan. So thanks so much again. I hope to see you back for the next video. And yeah, have a good week, everyone. See you soon. Bye.